reason Christ had to be crucified is because he is the law, and the law had to die. That's why Moses couldn't enter the promised land, because he represents the law. And the law has no place in the land of grace. It's destined to die in the desert. When a king speaks, his word becomes law. This is the reason Daniel was thrown in.
Okay, first of all, Yeshua doesn't say that he is the law of Moses. I don't know if you watched too much Chosen or something, but that's not something that he directly stated. I guess we can take the inferences that, he is the divine wisdom of the Most High, made flesh. I guess I could give it to you. I don't necessarily see a problem with it, but, as far as your statement of the law had to die because there's no place for the law with grace, it's foolishness. And I don't know you. A brother had shared the video with me. And I thought it was hilarious. No offense. It's okay to be wrong, but I'm here to correct you. Number 1, if we turn to Numbers chapter 20, it states this. So remember in Numbers 20, Moses is told to speak to the rock, right? That's the order that's given, to speak to the rock. That's not what he ended up doing. In fact, the first time that this had happened, he was supposed to strike the rock. This time, he was supposed to speak to the rock, but that's not what he did. He struck the rock. So in verse 12, it says, "But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, because you did not trust me to show my holiness in the sight of the Israelites, you will not bring this assembly into the land which I have given them." The implication being that because he had broke the law, the direct statement from the Most High, that was the prohibition from him entering into the promised land. It was because he didn't follow the law. And again, the statement of there's no place for the law with grace, again, foolishness, because sacrifices were literally grace intertwined into the law. In Acts 15, we have Gentiles that are, essentially proselytizing to the nation of Israel, that are given 4 commands: to abstain from blood, from things strangled, which those kind of go hand in hand, and then, sexual immorality and idol worship. And then they're told to go hear from Moses in the synagogues, because he's read in the synagogues since, forever, on the Sabbath, right? So that's pretty much 5 commands right there given. So that's still a furtherance of a law. We also see that, the new covenant, again, made with Israel, the law is going to be practiced. That's what the standard is going to be in the millennial reign. Ezekiel 36, Ezekiel 37, which talks about, the 2 houses being joined together. Hebrews 8, which parallels with Jeremiah 31. Again, I will put my Torah in your inward parts and cause you to walk in my law, right? Or I will write my Torah on your heart, put my Torah within your heart. I will fill you with my spirit and cause you to walk in my law, which is a combination of Jeremiah 31 and 36, in case anyone's wondering, because they go hand in hand. Anyways, there's still a law, regardless of how you figure that. So the implication or the idea that there's no law with grace is foolishness. And then you said that, he didn't enter the promised land, and there's kind of this idea of no law and grace, yada, 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 yada. The law was done in Israel. It was to be kept in the land. I think we can agree on that, I hope, because it's very evident. Anyways, there are numerous occasions of the law being followed in the New Testament, just as well as the Old Testament. And even in Exodus 12, we have the mixed multitude coming out. Again, grace, mercy, all these things still applied. Exodus 16, there was grace that was shown because God had directly said, hey, this is the Sabbath, don't go out to gather, because there's not going to be anything there. And the entire assembly, there were people that went out to gather on Sabbath, even though he had just told them not to, and not a single person perished that day. grace. So, the idea that law and grace cannot coincide is foolishness. If you turn to Mark chapter 14, it states that. So you said the reason that he, had to be crucified is so that the law died and whatever. But the reason that he was crucified, as far as the New Testament standards, or what it states, is starting at verse 60 of Mark chapter 14. The high priest stood up before them all and questioned Jesus. Don't you have an answer to what these men are testifying against you? But he kept silent, did not answer anything. Again, the high priest questioned him. Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One? I am, said Jesus, and all of you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of the power and coming with the clouds of heaven. And this is just the New Testament reasoning for ultimately why he ended up on the cross. And yeah, we can go back to Isaiah 53 and talk about him being pierced and all these things, and that's fine. But even Romans 8 specifically states that those who have the Spirit of God will walk according to the law, because the dichotomy or the contrast is that those who do not have the Spirit of God or walk according to the flesh do not submit themselves to the law of God, nor indeed are they able to. And furthermore, Paul says that they are not able to please God. That is, those that do not have the Spirit of God and those that do not submit themselves to the law of God, which is the law of Moses. You then go on to give a representation of kings and how when they speak something it becomes law. And I just want to point out that you used Darius as an example, a pagan king. And that's not to say that, there wasn't a use for the pagan king from the Most High. I'm pointing out that he was a pagan king. There really has no standing as far as how the Torah works. Even though there were, anyways, whatever. But Deuteronomy 17 specifically states that the king of Israel, a sovereign that is set up over Israel, is to write a copy of the Torah from the copy of the Levites, and he is to read it, and he is to judge from it. Okay? This is the law of God, the law of Moses. No matter how you look at it, the law is still in place. The law is still a part of the grace system because, again, the sacrifices were something that were implemented in the law of Moses that are clear understandings of grace. And even during the law, again, there was grace. Exodus 16, and you can go through all of the Torah and just see myriads of amounts of grace that were placed on the Israelites, even though they had to follow the law. So I hope this helped. Continue to study. Shalom.